The Most Human Meaning of Courage, written by Marcus Thompson, shares a story about the famous Olympic gymnast Simone Biles, who let down many of her fans when she did not compete in the Olympics because of her mental health. She faced a lot of hate, but she chose to deal with her anxiety in healthy ways. Another study, hosted by child-adolescent psychiatrist Sarper Tuskiaran, hosted a study with 10,000 people, which showed that 2/3 of the subjects who developed a drug and alcohol issue had experienced a mental health issue in their formative years. My curiosity about the two subjects led me to create the question of what the link is between substance abuse and anxiety in adolescence. Understanding anxiety. Anxiety is the body's natural reaction to stress, causing feelings of nervousness, unease, and tension. In small amounts, it can help you stay alert and focused, but when it becomes too intense or happens too often, it can interfere with a person's daily life. There are several types of anxiety, but 4 of them are very common. Generalized anxiety disorder is a constant worry about many different things. Panic disorder involves sudden panic attacks that make you feel out of control. Social anxiety is an intense fear of being judged or embarrassed in front of others, and specific phobias are strong fear of certain things. Anxiety can be caused by a mix of genetics, past experiences, and ongoing stress. Substance abuse is when someone keeps using drugs or alcohol in a way that ends up hurting their health, relationships, and daily life. It's not just about trying something once, it's about using it too often in dangerous amounts or in the wrong situations. This can include legal things like alcohol or prescription medications, as well as illegal drugs like cocaine or heroin. Even stuff like cough syrup or inhalants can be abused if they're used to get high instead of for their real purpose. While not everyone who uses substances becomes addicted, using them a lot raises the chances of developing a substance use disorder when you can't stop even though it's clearly hurting you. Things like family history, mental health struggles, peer pressure, trauma, and constant stress can make someone more likely to fall into substance abuse. To better understand the question I'm researching, it was important to understand how the adolescent brain functions. Roughly around the ages of 10 to 25, the brain undergoes massive remodeling. When a teenager experiences anxiety, the amygdala, which is also the brain's fear detector, goes on high alert. Teens' amygdalas usually react more strongly than adults, which explains why the anxious feelings are so much more intense. While the amygdala is on high alert, the prefrontal cortex tries to calm down anxious feelings. However, the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until the mid-20s, making it hard to regulate the amygdala. Memory and learning are also affected by high-stress hormones. This makes it harder to focus and remember details during certain moments. When teenagers come in contact with substances, such as drugs and alcohol, they are not able to control their judgment, memory, and impulse control as well as an adult would be able to. Drugs and alcohol cause massive surges of dopamine in the brain, which makes the adolescent believe that it is the best feelings and that they should continue to engage in these activities. Over time, the brain reduces natural dopamine, causing normal activities to feel less rewarding. Since the adolescent brain is not even close to being fully developed, it is easier for habits and addictive patterns to start to form. The reward circuit is the brain's built-in motivation and pleasure system. The reward circuit is vital in adolescence because it plays a central role in motivation, learning, and emotional development to help transition into adulthood. Teens learn through trial and error and rewards. A sensitive reward circuit makes success, achievements, and social interactions feel especially good, reinforcing healthy habits and skills. However, drugs and alcohol fill this circuit with dopamine, which causes an individual to be in a kind of euphoria. Dopamine makes the individual feel pleasure and a sense of being complete, which is what forces the person to keep using this drug. As more time goes on, the person begins to build up a tolerance. This means that it reduces the intensity of the individual's feelings. The tolerance can cause a person to take more of a drug so that they can try to get the same high they had when they first started using the drug. Drugs and alcohol break the reward circuit system, causing addiction, since the brain believes only more of the substance can fix it. Along with substances, anxiety also affects the reward circuit. It shifts the brain's focus from seeking rewards to avoiding threats. Over time, this lowers motivation and increases withdrawal from rewarding experiences. As a teenager, anxiety is very common because they feel a lot of pressure. Factors such as high expectations, peer pressure, social media, overloaded schedules, and lack of exercise cause the most anxiety among teenagers. Since teenagers' brains are still developing, teens are especially sensitive to these stressors. However, one of the biggest stressors that induces anxiety among adolescents is substance abuse. Drugs and alcohol can worsen symptoms or even trigger them. Kids who struggle with anxiety think that drinking and smoking will quiet their anxiety and allow them to be active, outgoing, and calm in a group of people. Teenagers say that they turn to substances to relax and escape reality. New findings show that there is rising anxiety and lots of hopelessness among teenagers. Sarah Connolly, lead author of the new report and an epidemic intelligence service officer with the CDC's Division of Overdose Prevention, says, it might make sense that teens are looking for ways to reduce stress and anxiety. In her study, she did a self-assessment of teenagers, and she found that 44% of them use substances to cope. That same percentage of people said that they use drugs to forget about a problem in their lives. Dr. Leslie Walker Harding, Chief Academic Officer and Senior Vice President at Seattle's Children's Hospital, said that 75% of young people with a substance use disorder also had a mental health condition. In summary, this survey showed that teenagers ages 13 to 19 lean toward substances to deal with their mental health issues, especially anxiety. Adolescents often become involved with drugs and alcohol for a mix of social, emotional, and environmental reasons. Peer pressure and the desire to fit in can push teens to experiment, while curiosity and the thrill of breaking rules makes it tempting. When using substances, adolescents seek fun, thrill, and excitement. Many adolescents use substances to make them appear more confident in certain social situations. Meanwhile, other adolescents use substances to escape boredom. Easy access to substances, seeing them used at home, or being influenced by media that glamorizes drinking and drug use can also increase the risk of usage. Researchers found that the majority of kids use substances to feel rebellious or more independent. The most common substances associated with adolescents are alcohol, nicotine, marijuana, prescription drugs, and over-the-counter medication. About 29% of high school students report having had at least one drink in the past month. Around 14% report binge drinking in the past month. Nearly 25% of high school students report using e-cigarettes in the past month. Traditional cigarette use has declined, but still, about 4% of high schoolers smoke cigarettes. About 22% of high school students report using marijuana in the past month. Usage rates have remained relatively steady over the past few years. Roughly 5% of adolescents report misusing prescription drugs like opioids or stimulants at least once. Alcohol can cause extreme anxiety in a person's body. Alcohol induces panic since it affects a chemical called GABA, which is the relaxation chemical in your brain. Heavy drinking can over time deplete GABA and cause extreme states of panic and extreme anxiety. Heavy alcohol use can potentially make people dependent on alcohol, so when they stop drinking, they are at risk of alcohol withdrawal, which results in extreme anxiety. This same reaction occurs with drugs. When a person quits drug, the brain experiences a quick change, which is likely to trigger panic attacks. However, many people argue that marijuana can help reduce anxiety. Marijuana is composed of more than 100 compounds, including THC, which is mind-altering, and CBD, which is not mind-altering, meaning it does not give you a high. As time goes on, alcohol and drugs can start affecting your brain, liver, stomach, fertility, heart, and risk of having cancer. 40 million people above the age of 12 are addicted to alcohol, and 12% of all high school students are currently struggling with a substance addiction. More than 90% of people with a substance issue began smoking, drinking, or using other drugs before the age of 18. Adolescent drug and alcohol use can cause lasting harm by disrupting brain development, especially in areas controlling decision-making, memory, and self-control. It greatly increases the risk of addiction and mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Substance use also leads to poorer school performance, damaged relationships, and physical health problems. In addition to brain effects, long-term use is linked to poor academic performance, higher dropout rates, and strained family and social relationships. Physically, chronic use can damage organs like the liver, heart, and lungs, and increase the risk of accidents and risky behaviors. Finally, substance use disrupts the brain's stress regulation system, making it harder for teens to cope with stress without relying on substances, creating a cycle of anxiety and relapse. Solutions. Although drugs and alcohol can help fix anxiety in the short run, in the long term they can end up causing extreme anxiety and panic attacks since people experience extreme withdrawals. A major solution for this issue is increasing exercise. Exercise boosts mood and reduces anxiety by relieving endorphins and dopamine, which increases mood and reduces anxiety. Exercise also improves brain function and self-regulation by promoting the growth of new brain cells and improving memory. Exercise also offers a natural and healthy way to activate dopamine pathways. This helps teens feel pleasure and satisfaction without substances, reducing the desires to seek an artificial high. Regular exercise also builds healthy habits and provides adolescents with a solid routine. The routine can also replace the time that teenagers could be spending on experimenting with certain substances. Programs such as Girls on the Run Club are exercise practices that help build structure. This program allows girls to spend more time outside, all while using physical activity to build social, emotional, and physical skills, which help build healthy habits. Another exercise practice that helps is the Presidential Fitness Test. It motivates students to improve their health and presents them with a challenge that encourages students to become a better version of themselves. Some schools plan on bringing back this test, which I believe could be very beneficial for teenage students. Therapy and relaxation techniques are also other ways that, if done consistently, can help deal with anxiety and push adolescents away from substances. Overall, there is a strong link between substances and anxiety in adolescence, and it is a common problem in the current day. However, there are approaches that can help fix these issues and help teenagers fall into healthy habits.
Aerin, I know that you've been interested in this topic of anxiety and how it impacts people's health for a little while. So I wonder if you can just describe how some of your previous experiences, previous knowledge helped you with what you do.
So I started researching this in AP seminar last year, and it first started as I just wanted to focus on anxiety in adolescence, and also I read that Simone Biles article, which kind of inspired me to talk about anxiety. But when I did more research, I found that substance abuse was highly related to it because that's what most people turn to. And then I kept doing more research and found out that it was even more common for adolescents to turn to substances when they experience feelings of anxiety. So that made me want to know the correlation between the two.
Aerin, great job.
Thank you.
So you mentioned in the very beginning there were basically 4 types of anxiety. In your research, did one kind of take the lead when it came to substance abuse? Like if you had one particular type of anxiety, did that kind of take over?
I think social anxiety was the main one because, like I said, peer pressure plays a big role, and then also glamorizing it on social media and stuff. So I think that one definitely led to the most issues with substances.
Okay. And then with anxiety itself, was there any correlation between things like social media causing anxiety in the research?
Yeah.
And cell phones?
I think social media does cause anxiety, like I said, just glamorizing certain things and then feeling behind, even looking, if you see a classmate's project or they did better than you on something, then it can cause feelings of anxiety, you're behind. So.
Thank you.
I'm wondering on some of the slides of your statistics where they came from. For example, your slide on common substances, and you had 22% reported using marijuana, 4% cigarettes. Where did those studies come from, and were those studies peer reviewed?
So I actually got it from Mayo Clinic in the journals they do. And it's actually, I like Mayo Clinic. I think it's my favorite source because it updates it very often. So I was able to find ones that were used this previous month from Mayo Clinic, and I don't know if I just got lucky or not, but it was just updated when I was doing this. So
all of your stats on these slides came from Mayo Clinic?
Did you see, in looking at any of that data, if there's any trends increasing, decreasing, or if it's staying the same from reported alcohol, specifically alcohol use from the early 2000s to now?
I actually didn't look at increase or decrease, but that is something I wanted to touch on. I just think I ran out of time to kind of add it into my presentation.
Because things that I have seen have actually shown that there's somewhat of a decrease, which I find really interesting, but also very encouraging compared to.
I think it's because there's so many more therapy and different techniques that you can do. Yeah, different resources.
I had
available.
a question on that too. So, because I love the options exercise and therapy and relaxation techniques. But one of the things that I was thinking and that popped up while you were saying that is the time frame in which those are done compared to parties,
Yes.
which are after a football game. Let's say, maybe people are. I don't think anyone's going to the gym or hey, let's go for a run after that. So I just wanted to know your opinion about what could be done about that. Because again, yes, you can go exercise after school, you could do a sport after school, something like that. So that is taking that time. But then when it is in a setting where it is more likely for these substances to be present, what could be done about that, or what might alternatives be besides not going to the party and then not feeling like you're fitting in or something?
Yeah. Well, I just think over time, you just start falling into more healthy habits when you follow a schedule of working out every day, and you do exercise and do healthy habits. So I think it's all about structure almost in a way, and discipline, because I think you become more disciplined when you're working out, and I think it just kind of forms in a way. Does that make sense? Instead of wanting to do that. So.
I had another question about like with your, so your question was what is the link between,
Mhm.
is there a link or what, because it seems like intuitive that there is a link between.
Yes.
So was your question like how much of a link or how causal is substance abuse to anxiety? I was just a little confused on what exactly you were trying to prove.
So I was just trying to prove that there is a heavy link between them. It's like the amount, like the link is. I think it's a very heavy link. I think anxiety causes these like adolescents to turn to things like drugs and alcohol, and then drugs and alcohol cause extreme amounts of anxiety in adolescents. So
Like compared to other factors?
yes, compared to other factors, yeah.
So do you think one is a driver of the other? Like, do you think somebody that has anxiety is more likely to use substances, or is it
Right.
somebody starts using substances and then that causes them to have
I don't
anxiety?
think one is more than the other. I think I was just like mostly comparing how like similar they are and how they affect each other. But I don't think there's one that's more than the other. I think they're about the same.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.